Hello, this is Jamie. Oh, and there's an important phone call coming right as I start this live cast. My cat Biddy, unfortunately, has been at the veterinary emergency clinic since Friday. He, I found that he was having difficulty peeing, or that he had kind of peed all over himself, which he never does, and there was blood in it, and so I took him to the emergency clinic. And apparently he had some pretty big blockages that they haven't quite been able to figure out yet. Probably an infection that's causing some swelling, but they're not quite sure. This phone call was going to let me know. So they put a catheter in him twice now, taking the catheter out in the hopes that he will urinate on his own. And so this call was about whether or not the second removal. So the first time they did that, it did not work. This is the call about the second removal to see if he is peeing okay. So after I get off this live cast, I will call back the clinic and hopefully have some good news about Biddy so we can come home. He's been away from home since Friday. Thank you all for joining me this morning. Looks like Jennifer's here, George, Tom, Chris, Megan's here, which always makes me smile, and a bunch of other people. Thank you for joining me this morning. I was just talking about my cat Biddy, who's not here. He's a little sick, but hopefully he's doing better. I'll find out after this live cast. I'll call the vet back to see what the good news, or hopefully news is. Hopefully good news. And my chocolate of the week is somewhat related to that because after I went to the clinic yesterday to check on Biddy to see how he was doing. There was a QT right next door. I was, of course, feeling bittersweet. I was happy that I got to see my little boy, but sad that I had to leave him there. So I got some treats for myself. I got a frozen Snickers that I ate yesterday, and today's chocolate of the day is what remains of a Hershey's Cookie Layer Caramel Bar, which is quite delicious, and I look forward to eating that after this live cast. As some of you have mentioned here, there is a video now, a Watch It Played rules video for Tapestry. So if you want to know how the rules work for Tapestry, you can see that. The rules are also now on our website. Actually, I don't think I linked it on the rules page of our website, so I will do that after our live cast as well. But it is on the main Tapestry page. And the Automa rules will go live tomorrow. So, and also tomorrow, you will start to see other content from other creators. You won't see reviews yet. Reviews will wait until September 4th when the pre-order goes live. But videos, maybe some blogs, maybe some podcasts about what the game actually is from other media content creators. You'll see that go live starting tomorrow. Josh says his little dog is having the same problem that Biddy's having, a bladder issue. I'm really sorry to hear that, Josh. It's unfortunate to see, and apparently it's a lot more. It can be a lot worse than I thought, which I did not realize until I talked to the vet a few days ago. Because obviously, urinating is a way that we get a bunch of bad stuff out of our system, and if that's blocked up on a permanent basis, it's lethal. So hopefully, Josh, your dog is okay. Hopefully, my little cat Biddy is okay. We'll find out soon. What other do I have any other Tapestry news? So at this point, I have finished the Tapestry Design Diary series. So if you want to know anything about Tapestry, you can go back and read it. You're also welcome to ask me here today. I know it's a lot to read, so if you have any Tapestry questions, the full game, except for the Automa rules, which Morton will reveal tomorrow, will go live tomorrow. I'll show you what the rulebook looks like. Well, so the rulebook is kind of two things. I cheated a little bit. So the rulebook is 4 pages, as I've been proudly advertising. This is the Tapestry rulebook. It's full of illustrations and color. It's not just all tiny text or anything like that. The text does get a little tiny on the reference guide. So there's these reference guides that show the tech cards and then what all the benefits on the tracks mean. So the text is, you can see this here, but this is a thicker piece of paper. There are 2 of these in the game, so you can pass them around the table or have one on either side of the table. And there are also some reference cards in the game. I don't think I have those handy here. But there's some reference cards that remind players how the core benefits, the core actions work in the game. Let's see if there are any questions here so far. Zane says, Tapestry is going to sell out in 30 minutes at Essen. I hope so, Zane. That would be cool. How do we ensure that we get a copy? Pre-orders for booth pickups? No, I think Matago, I think they've tried the pre-order thing and it hasn't really worked for them. So Matago is handling the Essen sales for Tapestry, and they'll just accept anyone who comes up to their booth. Of course, if you want them to change that, if you'd like to express this, Zane, you're welcome to contact Matago and let them know how you feel about that. Maybe they'll change their minds about it. Heather says, how is the Charterstone app coming along? As far as I can tell, Heather, it's coming along really well. The developer Akram Studios has done a really great job on the Charterstone digital Facebook page, which you're welcome to check out and join, of keeping people updated and asking questions along the way about like which icons work, which icons don't work. So I think they're doing a really great job. Everything that I've seen looks fantastic. I played a very rough beta version of it, just kind of a functional beta, and it came together really well. I think it'll still take a bit of time, maybe another 6 months for them to have it out, but the beta might be ready by the end of 2019. We'll see how they do. Gerald says, what was the highest ever page count of the prototype rulebook for Tapestry? I don't know if it was, well, I guess the original version was probably in Word, and I don't know how long that was, but as soon as I brought it over to InDesign, I had that 4-page format in mind, and I think it was 4 pages pretty much the entire time. That doesn't mean that it was good the entire time. There were definitely times where playtesters came back to me in large numbers and said, we just don't understand how this works. You need to add more. You need to add more examples, more this. So that's why the rulebook evolved quite a bit over time, but still maintained that 4-page length. I'm looking at my notes here to see if I have anything else specific about Tapestry. Again, I'm happy to show you anything if you want to see anything from Tapestry on camera. I have the box here. The game box is back there on my shelf. Simon says, graphic design question. Did I make a conscious decision to reuse your icons across games at an early stage, or did it just kind of happen? So I've been inspired a little bit by Ryan Lockett of Red Raven Games, who uses a lot of his icons over and over again. And I love that because it means that if you've played one Red Raven game and you want to play another one, you can decipher a lot of the icons just because you already understand them. So I don't do that quite to the extent that Ryan does it. But for like victory points, I typically use a laurel wreath. There's some other icons that I use similar. We pretty much redesign the icons every time we make a new game, but oftentimes they're inspired by previous games. But if you plan on having a series of games, I love the Ryan Lockett method there. I think that's pretty cool. Sam says, what was the hardest part of designing Tapestry? Ooh, I don't know. There were lots of key pivotal moments. One was trying to fit the epic scope that I wanted into the game of going from the early stages of mankind to the future. Being able to fit all that in without overwhelming players or having like a ton of text or a ton of fiddliness, that was definitely a challenge. It was also a challenge to balance the game, to make sure, because there's lots of asymmetry in the game, depending on at different times some tracks are better than others or worse than others. At times, some of the 16 different civilizations, some were better than others, some were worse. We had to test the balance of the capital city mats, even though they look fairly similar, they act very differently. Balancing it was a major challenge. We got a lot of that done through local and blind playtesting, and even more of it through Altama playtesting. Actually, some other Tapestry things that did come out over the last few days. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll also see a video that the artist Andrew Bosley put together of the cover art, the box art coming together. So it's like a 3-minute video that's sped up to show the process of what it took for him to go from some sketches to the final box art. It's really, really cool video. There's also the Tapestry teaser trailer, which is a stop motion video created by Ben Doran, who is a stop motion animator. And so we decided rather than go digital for Tapestry, because of the look of the game, the look of the landmark miniatures, kind of the sculpted clay look from sculptor Ron Brown, we went with a stop motion look. So I'm really happy with what Ben put together in that teaser trailer. I think the last time I checked, it had way more views than I thought a video would on our channel, on my channel, so quickly. I think it had like 30,000 views. I'll check to see what it's up to now. So a lot of people have watched it, and it seems to have been fairly well received. Let's see what the actual play count is at this point. Any guesses here? The play count for the Tapestry? Yeah, 31,000 views. That's awesome. That's pretty cool. I think that's it for my notes on Tapestry. Again, continue to ask me whatever you want about Tapestry. I played some new games last week. I learned Century: A New World, and I played Trogdor, and I guess I played 5211 before that. But Trogdor and Century: A New World I really enjoyed. I love worker placement. Century: A New World does one of my favorite things with worker placement, which is on your turn, you're either putting down a worker or workers, or you are picking up workers. So it's a really nice flow to the game. There are no rounds or phases. You're just putting down, picking up, and there's a bumping mechanism, which I used. I don't want to say invented, just in case someone did it before me, but Euphoria was one of the first games that did that, so I love to see that in other games. And Trogdor, I really enjoyed. I mentioned in my video last week that I didn't know much about the Trogdor IP, but I watched the video. It kind of seemed familiar when I watched it, maybe a little bit, and it's a really cool cooperative game where all players are controlling one single character as they attempt to lay waste to the land. So you're kind of playing the bad guy cooperatively, which I think is pretty rare in cooperative games. I had a lot of fun with it, and I'd actually highly recommend it, especially for a convention play. If you see Trogdor at a convention, I'd highly recommend giving it a try. Tim says, are all the land tiles designed to have 1 or 2 land types per edge? Yes, Tim, that's correct. Yeah, 1 or 2 land types per edge. Jazz says, speaking of an app, what about the Viticulture app? Any news on that? They update me monthly. So the last update I had was about 3 weeks ago, and it seemed to be coming along well. The updates are usually like that. Like they send me the most recent version. I'm like, okay, looks cool. I'll test it out. I test it out a little bit, offer them some feedback, and then they go back to work with it. So I don't really know the timeline for it, but I know that it is continuing to move forward. Jeremiah says, what do I think about the news that St. Louis is getting an MLS team in a couple years? Yeah, I heard that the other day, and I am super excited about it. I love soccer. I'm curious to see. I think they're putting it in Clayton. I'll have to see where they put. Does anyone know where are they putting the stadium in St. Louis? What part of town? Because there are lots of little downtown pockets in St. Louis. There's the actual downtown, and there are other parts of St. Louis that feel like downtown, even though they're still part of St. Louis City. So I'm curious where they're going to put that stadium. But I love the idea, and I hope it gets a lot of support from local fans. I intend to go to some of the games. Ben says, for Tapestry, how did you know that the design was done? Was there a final aha moment or design change that made you feel it was complete? Tapestry was a little unique in that usually it's a combination of me getting playtest data, ratings from the playtesters, and balanced feedback from playtesters that indicates that the game is ready, based on that more partially anecdotal, partially data-driven evidence. Part of it is a gut feeling of me knowing, okay, the game is as good as it can be. But with Tapestry, after I had that feeling, it also entered some pretty heavy Automa playtesting, where Automa playtesters are really good at trying to break the game. Even better, I think, than multiplayer playtesters, because Automa players are just playing on their own. They're playing it solo. And so after that, with Tapestry, Automa playtesters still found some things that were a little unbalanced, and they made the game even more complete after that. And they found some infinite loops that we had missed. And so after that, especially, I felt very confident that the game was done and balanced and ready. Zane says, the Civ series has a ton of aggressive actions that players could take. I understand that Tapestry doesn't have any negative interactions. How did I navigate that? Yeah, I did a Design Diary post the other day about player interactions. You might be interested in reading that, Zane. And I say that because there are actually quite a few player interactions in Tapestry. I wanted to give players reasons to pay attention to each other without actually hurting each other. That's not the type of game that I enjoy. I enjoy rewarding games, not punishing games, whether it's the game punishing you or other players punishing you. So, but I still wanted players to have a reason to pay attention to other players throughout the game. And Tapestry has a ton of that type of player interaction. There are a few positive player interactions, and others are just kind of timing things. Like if I see you creeping up one of the tracks, do I try to pass you at the right time? Do I pass into my income turn before you do, so I get a bonus resource or two? That type of interaction is plentiful in Tapestry. I just wasn't interested in the negative type interactions. That's kind of a theme in all of my games. Let's see if I'll go back to one of my topics real quick. I did a blog post the other day about how to invite someone to a convention. Mostly it was geared towards conventions inviting special guests to conventions, but I think it also, the outline that I gave applies to inviting anyone to a convention for the first time. So if you're running a convention or you go to a convention and you're trying to invite someone to it, you might check out that blog post. It talked about things like some core essentials, like where is the convention, when is it, when is next year's convention? So if the person says no for this year, they can start to plan ahead. Sometimes that's very helpful for me to know, like, yeah, I can't attend this year, it's a month away, but next year, maybe I can think about that. And also one thing that I hadn't thought of until recently, it's really helpful when someone says, okay, our convention is in X town in Utah, In fact, Utah was one where someone invited me last week. Our convention's in this town in Utah. Here's what the convention is. Here's the feel of the convention. And also, here's some other things to do in this area. Because if you're inviting someone from far away, they might want to make a trip of it. And they might not want to just go to the convention, but also have some interesting food in the area, or see an interesting thing in the area, or experience something interesting that's unique to that area. So, yeah, just some thoughts I had for inviting people to conventions. Chris says, where are Biddy and Walter in Tapestry? I believe they appear twice. Once is on a territory tile, but I think they're really small there. They're much bigger on one of the Tapestry cards. Steven says, it seems like you spent enough time looking at Tapestry as a 6-player game that I added an extra player reference and said it was a possibility. Can I talk about why I ended up as a 5-player game? Was this an issue that came up in playtesting? Yeah, there are 2 reasons, Steven. One is cost. Tapestry is a very expensive game to make, and to add a whole other set of player components would have significantly increased the cost. So I didn't quite want to go too high with Tapestry, even though it is an expensive game. The other reason is downtime and length of playing the game. Tapestry is a longer game. It takes 90 minutes, 120 minutes. A learning game will take even longer than that. And so with 6 players, it really just bumped it a little bit too long, added a little bit too much downtime. It's something I might consider for an expansion. That's why I included the reference card. We had an extra card on the card sheet to use, but I think it's probably highly doubtful at this point, unless I add a mechanism that really speeds up the game. But I don't think I would even do that at this point, because I think Tapestry kind of hits a good sweet spot in its current length and how it feels when you're playing the game. Dwayne says, this is not your usual thank you post. He says, thanks, Jamie, for all your help. My Kickstarter, his Kickstarter funded. Awesome, Dwayne. Congratulations. His question is, do I think that you'll ever get tired of hearing that? No. It really does feel good when I hear that. And really, the credit goes to you, Dwayne, and any creator who funds their project. I know you work super hard on this. I know other creators work super hard. But it does feel good when someone says, hey, I read your blog and I got an idea from it, or it helped me avoid this mistake, or something like that, because that's why I write the blog. That's why I started writing it back in 2012, because I made a bunch of mistakes on a project, and I wanted people to avoid those same mistakes and have a go-to resource. And actually, I should give even more credit here, because I noticed that Michael Mendez from Tasty Minstrel Games is watching this video right now. And Michael Mendez, as far as I know, had the only resource available on the internet about how to run a board game tabletop campaign when I ran Viticulture back in 2012. He had a PDF that you could download from the Tasty Minstrel Games website. So, Michael, thank you for having the original resource for Kickstarter creators, and thank you for inspiring me to create my own resource as well. Michael says, how did those Tim Tams go? Did Megan try them out? Oh, Michael, you've made my diet very difficult with those Tim Tams. They are delicious. They are amazing. Yes, Megan did try them out. I think she would agree that they are delicious and amazing. I still have part of the final package. I'm trying to eat just a little bit of it and save some to share with Megan. And we're also hoping when we go to New Zealand that we can get some there, because it's pretty close to Australia. Hopefully they have Tim Tams in New Zealand. But man, they are good. For a while, Michael, I'm embarrassed to admit that for a while, I don't drink tea or coffee. So for a while I was dipping them just in regular water, and then I tried it with a hot tea, and it was even more incredible, because not only is the cookie soaking up the liquid with a Tim Tam, for those of you who don't know, it's a chocolate cookie essentially that's covered in chocolate. So with the hot liquid, it kind of melts the outside of the chocolate, and it got really good. I think my favorite flavor is chocolate malt, but not with the caramel in the middle. The caramel's okay, but I really like the chocolate malt flavor. Brad says, was part of the Tapestry design to have all players feel at least a sense of accomplishment by endgame, even if they lose? Absolutely. Yeah, that's actually the goal for all of my designs, that even if you're not winning, that you feel like you built something special and unique and satisfying. That's in every one of my games. Right? That's my goal in every one of my games. Wes says, why have tracks on the board? Seems harder to follow from opposite sides of the map. Is there references to tracks elsewhere? Yeah, there's the reference guide here. There are 2 reference guides in the game that looks like this, so you can pass those around the table, see what the tracks do. I designed the icons to be big, colorful, and easily visible from across the board. There's no text that you need to look at from across the board. You're just looking at icons, so really the direction that you're looking at doesn't matter. And they're built into the board because it's just easier that way. It's easier to set up the game if you just have to open a game board and everything's there. Let's see, I'll go to one of my topics real quick and then I'll come back to questions. I watched Hercules, the animated movie, for the first time the other day. Megan had highly recommended this movie, and I've learned to trust Megan's judgment because she has great taste in things in general. And Hercules was a delight. I don't know why I haven't watched that movie. It's an animated movie, not that I watch too many like kids movies, but as an adult, it was still really fun and really good animation. I wonder if it's maybe a little bit more overlooked than some of the other Disney movies because it doesn't seem to come up when I think about Disney movies in general, but Hercules, really good movie. And I'm also watching now another recommendation from a few different friends, including Megan, is The Marvelous Miss Maisel. I believe that's the full name of the show. It's an Amazon Prime original show. I'm just in the second episode, but I don't know why I waited so long to watch it because it's delightful. It's funny. It's interesting. It's an interesting period piece, but not in a way that's too much of a period piece. It's just a really good show. I'm curious if any of you would recommend that, but at this point, I'm going to watch it either way because I'm really enjoying it. Josh says, have I tried a living card game yet? Something like Arkham Horror, Game of Thrones, or Lord of the Rings. I haven't gotten sucked into one yet, Josh, but I have played Arkham Horror, the living card game. I have played that one. Gerald says, would I rather play Tapestry with Cleopatra, Genghis Khan, or Tesla? Ooh. How about all of them? Can I play with all of them? That would be amazing if I could play Tapestry with all three of them. I would definitely lose. Ian here, famous illustrator Ian O'Toole, says that he really liked the stop motion trailer for Tapestry. Lovely break from the norm. Thank you, Ian. I really appreciate that. Yeah. That's all Ben's work. Ben did a great job, and Eric Sommer was on there too. Michael says, Automa playtesting, just playing one player, or am I missing something that utilizes computing power? Michael, Automa is the solo intelligent bot system that Morton invented for Tuscany originally. It's been applied to a number of our games and also the Gaia project. So it's an intelligent bot that you play against when you're playing solo, and it's not just random. It does have a feeling of intelligence to it. Beth says, I assume the pre-order is open for Tapestry. No, Beth, it is not open yet. The Tapestry pre-order is from September 4th to the 7th. It'll be on our web store. And at that point, you might also see it on other stores, other retailers. But if you want to pre-order from us, you'll get a discount on it. You'll get it in September, whereas everything else needs to wait until the release date a few months later. Sam says, how often have I seen a score over 400? What was the thought process behind the number of points people can score throughout the game? Games that can score over 200 are fairly rare, let alone 300 and 400. So Sam, during the playtesting process, there were a few Automa playtesters who really pushed that boundary and got above 300. I think someone even got above 400 points. There are some changes that we made near the end, some balancing changes, that probably mean that it's impossible to get a score of 400, but I left it on the board anyway, just in case someone figures it out, and maybe an expansion will allow players to get more points. I'd rather have it there than not have it there. But we do put in the rule book that a really great score in Tapestry is like 200, 250 is a really good score in the game. Chad says, what new projects am I excited to be able to spend more time on now that Tapestry is headed to the market? Well, I'm excited partially to start thinking about a little bit more the Tapestry expansion, if there's going to be an expansion. I have some ideas for it, and I'm also looking forward to see what people think about the game and what they want from an expansion after they've actually played Tapestry in September. I'm also, as always, working on my open world exploration cooperative game, and there's another secret project that we're ramping up on a little bit. And I'm also serving as the developer for 2 more games and an expansion that we're working on right now. So there's always a lot in works. We basically are booked for everything through 2021, and then we'll have some open spots for new games in 2022. Kevin says, he's talking about Tapestry. I'm trying to make the decision on extra dice and how many. Is there a situation where I might possibly have multiple players rolling rapidly after each player? Or will this situation not occur as much as I think? So Tapestry comes with a set of custom dice. I don't know if they're easily accessible here. They're not easily accessible, but they're deep in my insert. But you really only need one set. That's why I only included one set in the game, because players are never rolling them simultaneously. However, I know it's nice with dice to sometimes just have your own dice that you keep in your own player bag of player components, especially if you always play the same color. And so during the Tapestry pre-order, we will be selling extra sets of dice individually. So you can buy just one set of dice. If you usually play Tapestry with your spouse, your partner, then you might just buy one extra set of dice. Or if you plan on playing with 5 players frequently, you might buy 4 extra sets of dice. But it'll never be simultaneous, and it will never really be difficult to pass it around the table. It's just if you like that feeling of ownership over your own set of dice, you can do that. Ivan says, what was my inspiration for Tapestry? For example, there's an old game called Spore where you develop from a single cell organism to space age. Yeah, there's a design diary post, I think on Monday, maybe Sunday, about this. I think it was Sunday's post. Yeah, it was about the Civilization games that I've played, including Civilization, the digital game and the board game, Golden Ages, Seven Wonders, as well as some non-Civ games that served as inspiration, like Russian Railroads, Feast for Odin, Everdell, and I'm blanking on one. There's one more, Mombasa. They were all kind of inspirations for different elements of the mechanisms of Tapestry. Rod says, what's the approximate total cost of production of a scythe game? I don't talk about that, Rod, but you can estimate it, which is we roughly based the MSRP, which is $90 for scythe, on a 5 times multiplier. But oftentimes we fudge that a little bit. For a game that I don't want to go over a certain price, I might say, okay, this is more like a 4.5 times multiplier, and that'll be the MSRP, that type of thing. Jacob says, do I ever lose inspiration on a project, and what do I do to keep it going with afterwards? So I do two different things here, Jacob. One is, yeah, there's times where I just become not excited about a game, and sometimes if that's early in the process, that's a sign that I don't want to continue making that game, and I stop making it. I stop working on it. I think that's I have many games that I've started to design and just stopped. If I'm really deep into the project, what I usually am doing is designing or working on 2 different games at 2 different stages at the same time. So if I lose a little bit of motivation for one, I just focus my attention on the other for a little bit, and that helps renew me for the other game. So working on 2 at a time has been really helpful for me to keep that momentum going on a project at a time, even though it's not always the same project. Jared says, do I have a favorite Stonemaier game? I do not. No, I'm always happy to play any of my games that people are excited about. I'm proud of all of them for different reasons, and yeah, I wouldn't say I have a favorite specific Stonemaier game. Last week, a little fun tidbit from my life. I went with Megan to Springfield, Missouri, to watch the comedian Jim Gaffigan live. It's the first time that I've seen him live. I had no idea that he had such a big following, but we had a basketball stadium that was just packed with people, like a college-sized basketball stadium that was packed with people to see Jim Gaffigan. It was a great show. I've heard a lot of, ever since that I posted on Instagram and my personal blog about it, and I've gotten some great recommendations from other people who love comedians and people that they would like to see live. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. If you've seen Jim Gaffigan live, or if there's a comedian that you would love to see live, let me know in the comments. And while we were in Springfield, we had some really great crepes, and we went to a store that sold, instead of like ice cream, they sold raw cookie dough. So they had all these flavors of cookie dough. It's called Crave in Springfield. And you could just select like different scoops of cookie dough. They would just scoop it out like ice cream and serve you raw cookie dough, which was quite delicious. I love raw cookie dough, and I'm kind of jealous that place isn't in St. Louis. It would be really, really delicious to eat there. Peter says, Ian O'Toole is here. Jamie, are there any artists that I'd love to work with in the future? On a completely unrelated note, Ian is certainly one of them. I love the attention to detail and the different stylistic choices that Ian makes. Ian is certainly up there. There are many other artists that I'd also like to work with, but Ian is definitely one of them. Heather says, what is my go-to deck building game? For deck building, I would say Clank. For bag building, Orleans or Quacks of Quedlinburg, depending on how long of a game I'm in the mood for. Edmund says, he has a question. I really like your video about the history of my company. I wonder when it comes to success factors, my heavy implementation of the Automa system, can that be attributed to my success as a company as a whole? I think so, Edmund. I think Automa has been instrumental in many of our games reaching a wider audience. Based on my data, there's only still a very small percentage of people who use Automa and who play solo, but I'd rather, my company is about inclusivity. I'd rather include that 2, 3%, sometimes maybe 5%, rather than exclude them. And Morton and his Automa team do a fantastic job with it. So I think that has been helpful, at least a piece of the puzzle for the growth of my company. Tom says, regarding the Century trilogy, this is a trilogy from Plan B Games. Have I had a chance to mix the games together? I have not, but Tom says we enjoy East to West, Eastern Kingdom, and A New World. I've only played A New World very recently, and I've played Spice Road by itself, but I have not combined any of them yet. Jonathan says that he's in on Tapestry after watching the Watch It Play video. That's awesome. Oh, not a question here, just a nice comment. Thanks, Jonathan. I'm glad that video was helpful for you. Leo says, is there any information out there for sleeving Tapestry? How many and sizes? Yeah, it's on our Tapestry page on our website. Tapestry has 117 cards, all at the 57 by 87 millimeter size. Jeremiah answered my. It looks like I'm way behind on questions and comments here. Jeremiah says that the new Major League Soccer St. Louis team will be in the downtown West District. Cool. Jason says that he sold 4 games just to make sure that he had the funds for Tapestry. Will we be able to use PayPal for the pre-order? Yes, you will. Yeah, Shopify lets you use PayPal or credit card. Yeah. Rod says, Rod is asking this question again. Yeah, Rod, I kind of answered that question above about production cost. Brian says, he's teaching 2 new players Scythe tonight. Thank you for doing that. I always appreciate when people teach our games. He said, what's a proper baked good for a 6-player game, a Scythe game tonight? You could base the baked good over the faction that's not going to be played. You could base it off of the number 6. You could base it off of Scythe. What would be something from Scythe? A baked good from Scythe. I don't know. I'll just pick something I like. I like chocolate, so something with chocolate in it. I'll say that. How about that? Or you could pick something inspired by one of the different factions in the game as well. George says, have I considered making a space-related game, whether it be 4X or otherwise? It isn't really a theme that I gravitate towards, especially since there's so many other space games. Maybe someday I'll have an inspiration for it, but currently it's not on my brainstorming list. Okay, Jared has a long comment here. I'll skip to the end for the question part. He says, I was curious on, he's talking about Wingspan. I was curious on what the playtest experience was with the learning curve, and if the players, maybe even ones that don't play board games normally, were able to catch on to the mechanisms easily. Yeah, that was certainly something that we kept an eye on in playtesting Wingspan. We wanted it to be a game that people could catch on to pretty easily. Simple core mechanisms. That's really something I do with all my games, but blind playtesting helps really refine the rulebook to make that experience helpful. And we did gather a lot of playtest evidence that people who are gamers were able to learn the game, and also non-gamers were able to catch on. I think the most difficult thing is non-gamers who don't have a gamer there to teach them, and that's something that we're working on for Wingspan. Gerald says, at the end of Tapestry, what is the average track completion? I would say on average, you'll get close to the end or to the end of around 2 tracks, and then you'll be kind of farther down on 2 tracks, but also it's up to you. It's your choice. You could go with a balanced approach to all the tracks. You could go aggressively on 1 track, and then that might slow you down on all the other ones. But on average, I would say finish around 2 tracks, or get close to finishing around 2 tracks. Mario says, what channels are doing the early reviews? Rado, Dice Tower, Rolling Solo, Man vs. Meeple? All of those, except for Dice Tower. Tom is so busy right now. I didn't even ask Tom to do a video for it because I know how busy he is. He'll get a review copy when he's ready for it. The Meeple Street is getting one. Here, I'll look up the other ones. Dusty from the Mill doesn't do reviews, but he's getting a copy, or he has a copy, of course. All these people already have copies. They're just waiting for September 4th to post their reviews. Who else is doing it? Slicker Drips. I really like Slicker Drips over in the UK, and also Ella down in Australia is doing one. Hopefully that'll get there in time. That is a long way to go. It's still traveling. Who else do I have here? Game Boy Geek. Dan's doing one. Board Game Quest is doing one. And Tantrum House is doing one as well. Yeah, that's everybody. Yeah. Brian says, I hope MeepleSource makes custom outpost tokens cubes for each of the 16 civilizations. Each of the 16 civilizations. I don't know if that would, wouldn't do that for the outpost, because the outposts are associated with different players. The cubes, the cubes are the one component that I think could be enhanced, but I did specifically design them as cubes because they all fit into the circle really well. They can be stacked when necessary. They're really easy to pick up and move. So I kind of like the cubes. Jonathan says, any chance I'll sell Stonemaier shirts and or Tapestry size Wingspan? For Stonemaier ambassadors, we do sell shirts. This shirt right here, I feel like I have some cat on my shirt. This is a shirt from Psy, and it is sold on MeepleSource. MeepleSource creates and sells shirts for our games, unrelated to us. We're not really involved in that process. But I give them a little bit of feedback sometimes when they ask. But Stonemaier Games is not getting in the shirt business, but MeepleSource I think will continue to have some shirts. Delton says that he has Tim Tams in Target. Oh, that's not good news, Delton. That's not good at all. I really like those Tim Tams. Let's see. Daniel says, how do playtesters respond to having downtime after finishing their 5th income turns early? Were there cases where one player would end much earlier than others? There are cases where that happens, but the nice thing in Tapestry is that once one player finishes, there's one less turn for all the other players to worry about. So the game really speeds up quite a bit after that, especially when you're down to just 2 players and then 1 player. So we had one game where someone finished like 45 minutes early, which is extreme. But even that person had fun just hanging out and watching the game. They could have gone and played another game if they wanted to. That's really extreme, though. Usually it's within just a few minutes, 5-10 minutes at most. We did not hear, at least with the final versions of Tapestry, the final playtest versions, we did not hear negative feedback about that. Let's see. I don't think. Oh, I did have. This is really cute. My best friend's son invented a board game. He's like 6 years old, and he invented a board game and invited me over to play the game with him on Sunday. And so I went over and played this big game. He had it spread out all over the floor. He actually had a really interesting mechanism in the game. It was a space themed game. George, you asked about space themed games. Space combat game. And it was just really cute to see the amount of time and effort that he spent into designing this game, and that he actually wanted to play it and hopefully learn from it. He wasn't asking too many questions about what was to be improved. It was a little slanted in his favor, like his faction was a little bit stronger than everyone else's. But it was really neat to see a little kid. It reminded me of myself. I was designing games when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. So it was really neat to see a little kid that I admire doing that with this game that he invented. So I'm curious to see what he does with it. I'm curious if any of you have kids. Have your kids ever made an attempt at designing a game? George says, no chance for me to sign a couple of Tapestry first printings. It would make them even more unique. I'm certainly happy to. I obviously I work from home. I don't work from a warehouse where we sell the games or where we ship the games from. But if I ever see you, George, at a convention, or I see anyone at conventions, I'm happy to sign your games or sign anything you want. I'm always flattered when people ask that. Barbara says, when will the metal mechs be available? They're actually going to be available at the same time as Tapestry. So the second printing of metal mechs. And they'll hopefully be available for a little while after that. We made a pretty big print run. I know that people's wallets are going to take a little bit of a ding due to Tapestry, and the metal mechs are really, really expensive too. So they will be available at the same time if people want to consolidate shipping. Gerald says, what's my personal highest score in Tapestry? Oh, I don't remember offhand. I think I've gotten into the 200s. Ernani says, from what I've seen, the optimal move seems to be to take the as long as possible between income turns in Tapestry. That is good. It means you're using your resources well, but there are downsides to it. It means that you're not getting some bonus resources. It means that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're converting your turns into points as effectively as other players. In one of the recent games that I played, there was a player who finished last by at least a few turns and didn't win because they hadn't used their civilization as well as other players. So, I think it's actually pretty balanced in those regards. If you finish way earlier than other players, I think it's somewhat unlikely if you have not used your income turns effectively. But it's not necessarily a one-to-one correlation. Chad says, I don't like punishing games, or I don't like them, but do I still have any exceptions that I ended up liking because of an interesting mechanism? I did a video about a year ago on exceptions to my gaming rules, or my gaming preferences, and I'm sure there was a punishing game among them. There are Take That. What is my favorite, like, Take That game? Skull? Maybe Skull is kind of Take That, but even that's not all that direct. I'll have to think about that, because there are... Maybe there's some cooperative... Actually, okay, so recently I really did enjoy Set a Watch. It's a cooperative game that is kind of a classic. The game is just beating at you the entire time, style of punishing cooperative game, but I still really enjoyed the puzzle of it. So I'll say that as an exception to it. Devin says, do I have any must-dos planned for my New Zealand trip this year? I do, yeah, I have a whole whiteboard. It's a little off camera here, but I have a whole whiteboard filled with to-do stuff in New Zealand. But I'm still open to recommendations and suggestions as well. Jeff says, with revenues at or above 10 million and assuming consistent growth, we haven't actually hit 10 million yet, but maybe someday we'll reach that. Is it possible for Stonemaier to become untenable? Have I considered how I'll scale my workload over the next 7 years? I've heard that the 10 million mark is a point where companies need to start evaluating their personnel and things like that. But with the way the systems that I have in place are kind of built around just having one core project manager, me. So I don't know if an increase in revenue would necessarily require us to change how my workload works. But we'll see. I'm open to that. We'll see how it goes. Take a quick drink here while I read the next question. Marco says, quick question, which has probably been asked before. Will the eventual retail release of Tapestry contain the exact same components and quality as the pre-orders planned for September? The answer is yes. Yeah, every copy of Tapestry is exactly the same, with the one exception being that the first printing box is individually numbered, but that first printing box will be sold on our website and also to distributors and retailers. So anyone who gets a first printing copy of Tapestry will have an individually numbered box. And that'll be the only difference for subsequent printings, that will remove that individual printing number. Let's see. George asked about a codename game, but I don't really talk about codename games at this point. They remain a mystery. Philippe says, I've been busy with Fenris, Wingspan, and now Tapestry. What is next? Do I have a project currently that I'm working on? Will I go to Essen this year? No, I won't be at Essen. I'm working on a few games right now. I usually am working on 2 games. One is actually pretty far along in the development process, and one is not as far along. One is my open world exploration game, which is it's a massive game, and so it's doing well, but it's still going to take quite a bit of time. And I'm working as the developer on 2 other games and an expansion. So that means I'm not designing them. I'm not the designer, but I'm helping to make them as fun and intuitive, as balanced as possible. Lisa says, I was doing the best I have ever done in a Wingspan game with 3 people. I ended up with a score of 89. My husband ended up with a 98. Have you or Alan ever scored that high? Alan most certainly has. Alan is very good at Wingspan. I have gotten into the 80s, but I don't think I've ever crossed 98 or crossed 100. I've gotten pretty close. Maybe I have, but I think I've only gotten really close to that, Lisa. Peter says, did I see the TBD Kickstarter where the backers will vote on several design elements, then the designers will make the game with those constraints? He says he knows the creators for this and wonder what someone with my level of experience with Kickstarter thinks about a campaign like that. I think his goal was to be able to share the design experience. I love innovation. I love people trying new stuff, as long as they're looking out for their backers. And so, yeah, I did see that. I didn't look too deep into it because I prefer projects to be fully designed when they go to Kickstarter. But I love experimentation too. So all the better for them. I hope they have fun with it. I hope their backers have fun with it. Matthew says, how do you become an ambassador? That is the first that is the first gate to become an ambassador, which really isn't a gated thing, but if you can find out how to become an ambassador, then you become an ambassador, Matt. But it's on our website. You can look for Stonemaier ambassadors on our website. Ian says, I'm curious if you can talk about a little about what informs the choices of media outlets to send advanced copies of Tapestry. I try to pick I try to pick a variety of people. Some of them are picked because they're all picked because I think they do a great job of offering their, I don't want to say opinions, because I don't really care what their opinions are. I won't watch their videos. I won't read their reviews. If they don't like the game, I will never know about it unless someone tells me. I want their opinions to be truly unbiased. Mostly it's just about quality. I think there are lots of reviewers that do great work. Some of them are about audience sizes, surely. Like I do want the game to get exposure through these reviewers. Others are just people that I've worked with a number of times, and I know they're consistently doing a good job of getting the content out there, of sharing unbiased perspectives on the games. And also I want a diversity, so I have people from around the world, men, women, a good mix there. And I also need people who are able to kind of commit to putting the review out close to right when the pre-order goes live, because that's the whole point of these advanced copies, that people who are curious about the game can watch a review, can read a review or listen to it, and decide based on that information if it is a game for them to pre-order. So some reviewers aren't able to commit to that type of a time frame, while others are. Nicholas says, what games am I most looking forward to this year? Right now, Nicholas, the games that I'm most looking forward to are the ones that are on my shelf that I haven't played yet. I have a few cubbies back there of games that I have not played yet. Among them, Vegin, Plane Crafters, Campaign Trail. What else is on there? I have a whole Rabbit Island. I just got Men at Work. There's a lot of stuff that I'm eager to play that's on my shelf. Chad says, how did the player score in Tapestry that ended 45 minutes early? Did he get crushed because it ended too early? He didn't win. I think he might have finished last in that game. But he has since played that same faction and did much better. So I think it was just a first play thing for him. Mihir says, is it possible for a person finishing early in Tapestry to win, or is it usually a person finishing later turns or more? Yeah, you may have already seen the answer to this, Mihir. It is possible. I think it's more likely if you finish later, but it's all about how you end up the timing of the game, how you time the and when you get points, and how you use your resources to get points. Marco says, will it be translated to Portuguese? We do have a Brazilian Portuguese partner for it, which I know isn't quite Portuguese, but maybe close enough for you. Ernani says, would I say that the resource that you get when you are the first among your neighbors to catch an income turn is kind of a catch-up mechanism? Yeah, a little bit, although... No, maybe not. I wouldn't necessarily call it catch-up. I'd call it more a choice of player interaction and timing for Tapestry. Chad says that when I'm in New Zealand, I need to post a video of toilet water flushing in the opposite direction. I'll have to do that, yeah. Gerald says that my favorite Take That game is Magic. You're right. I didn't want to include two-player games in that answer, though, because two-player games are often inherently take that just because you're only competing against one other player. So I won't include two-player games in that category. But you are also right. Gerald says, besides upgrades, did any civilizations or cards in Tapestry also get inspired by something in Magic? Yeah, upgrades is a reference to the suspend mechanism in Magic. What else? I mean, probably, subconsciously at least, but none that I can think of directly from Magic. Jeremy says, will the first print run, I'll just read the words that you said, Jeremy. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Will the first print one numbered copies go out to pre-orders in numerical order based on who ordered first? Not at all. I mean, they're going to come to the warehouses at different times. They'll be stored in different ways. No correlation whatsoever. The only correlation for when you get your order in is how quickly it'll be shipped out. But it has no correlation whatsoever to the numbers on the boxes. Kent says, did I introduce Megan to hobby board games, or was she interested in hobby games before meeting you? Megan has played hobby board games for many, many years. So she has introduced me to games. I've introduced her to some new games, but we both met each other already as well-established gamers. Kent says, did I send an advanced copy of Tapestry to the Dice Tower? Not to Tom Vassell, because Tom, as I said, is kind of swamped with games right now from Gen Con, but he'll get a copy whenever he wants one. But I did send one to Rolling Solo, and I think that one will go on the Dice Tower channel. Tyson says, if I recall correctly, I believe that Jamie mentioned in an earlier live stream. Oh, no, he's answering the question. Thank you, Tyson. Simon says, have I been back in any Kickstarters lately? I am backing a few right now. Backing Sleeping Gods by Red Raven Games and Ryan Lockett. I'm looking right now. I'm also backing Burger Brothers 2. I backed After the Empire, but it looks like they canceled it and they're going to reboot it. Yeah, those are the three that I'm currently backing that are currently live. What about you, Simon? Are you backing anything lately? Jared says he's designing his first board game and have been playtesting it constantly with myself and friends. I was wondering if I knew the best way to get blind playtesters around the St. Louis area. Or more local playtesters, really. They're not really blind playtesters if you're there. But yeah, go to Meetup. Look at meetup.org and you'll see some playtest groups. Devin says, will I be doing a how to teach Tapestry video similar to the one that I posted for Wingspan? Or is Ronnie's video filling that role for the game? Ronnie's video teaches how to play the game, but not how to teach it. I will be definitely doing a how to teach video for Tapestry. Yeah. George says, how do I choose the people who are playtesting my games at early stages? I would like to know if I can be eligible for this. I picked them from our ambassadors, and there's a big test that ambassadors take, interested ambassadors take like once a year to see if they're eligible to be a playtester, and then from that group, I have them playtest a game usually, and I decide based on how good they are at doing it, at being a playtester, that I decide if they do it in the future. So the first step, George, is to be an ambassador, which you already are, and so you will at some point have an opportunity to take that test to possibly become a playtester, a blind playtester. Simon says, will I be getting the #1 copy of Tapestry? And no, actually, my copy of Tapestry is not numbered at all. It says first printing on it, but it doesn't have an individual number on it. So it's kind of unique in that way, but I won't be getting #1. Someone out there, someone lucky will get #1. Morgan says, Watch It Please has Tapestry. Yes, we did contract. It's a paid thing. We paid Rodney to make us a video, and Rodney does a wonderful job with that. Josh says, I may have answered this before. Have I considered making a game based on a license or IP? I have, yeah. There are a few different IPs that I've explored. There's a video, if you look at my channel, for, I think it's like IPs that I didn't get, things like that, something like that. There's a bunch of IPs that I have considered in the past. Kent says, was the pre-order date announced? Yes, we'll be accepting pre-orders from September 4th through the 7th on Tapestry, and at the same time, we'll accept orders for the Scythe Metal Mechs, the second printing, which is being shipped at the same time as Tapestry. I think I've covered all of my topics today. Let's see if you all have any more questions, and then I will enjoy my chocolate of the day. And actually, I need to call back the vet. I'm a little eager to do this because I want to see how my cat is at the emergency medical clinic right now. It's been there since Friday at the vet hospital, essentially. So I want to check on him and see how he's doing. Werner says, please accept on September 11th. I don't know what that means, Werner. Please accept what and why September 11th? Dwayne says that he sees the Tapestry box top. Dwayne wants certain numbers. Yeah, you never know. And if a certain number is really important to you, you can always put it out there to the world in the Tapestry Facebook group or on Board Game Geek and say, hey, if you get this number, I'm willing to pay for shipping for that box top, or I'll trade you my box top, something like that. So it's not something that we're going to be doing. That would be a logistical nightmare if we did that, but you might be able to do it. Chad says, can I explain again the dice availability and option to order another set? So there's a set of dice that comes in Tapestry. That's all you need, but if you want that sense of ownership of having, okay, this set of dice is always going to be with my faction. I'll open up my little bag of faction token or player tokens, and the dice will always be in there. I don't want to pass them around the table. You can order more dice sets when you order directly from us as part of the pre-order, and we made some extra dice sets to sell as part of that. Brandon says, do I have a favorite designer? I have a lot of favorite games. My big three that I always think of when I think of my favorite designers are Uwe Rosenberg, Rob Davio, and Alexander Pfister, but there are many other designers that I admire. I'm almost hesitant to even give that list at this point because there are so many that I really love what they do on a consistent basis. I mentioned Ryan Lockett several times in the video. I love what Ryan does, for example. Tyson says, what's my take on edible board games? Genius or pure horror, like Tim Tams Jenga? Ooh, I would play Tim Tams Jenga. That sounds awesome. For fun, I think it's fine. I don't know if I'd pay for it, but I would be willing to construct something like buy a bunch of Tim Tams and play Jenga with them. Alyssa says, how old are Biddy and Walter? Wishing the best for Biddy. Thank you, Alyssa. Biddy is 12 and a half. I got Biddy as a kitten, so I've had Biddy his entire life. And Walter, I got him as a, Biddy was a rescue, but I also got Walter as an adult rescue, and his age is somewhat unknown. We think it's somewhere between like 7 and 11. Chad says the extra dice set comes with 3 sets of, no, well, the extra dice set comes with 3 dice. Not 3 sets of dice, but 3 dice. All right, I'm going to wrap this up and give the vet a call to see how my little bitty boy is doing. But thank you all for joining me today with your questions. I look forward to seeing you in the Tapestry Facebook group and elsewhere. And have a great Wednesday. All right, take care. Bye.